You can live a life full of love and light if you just let the Spirit guide you. It's the remedy where you'll find peace, but you must let the Spirit guide you.
Who made y'all priests?
What's up, world? This our Fafore.
What's going on, good people? This is our Oseun. Welcome back to the Who Made Y'all Priest podcast, where we talk about our spiritual journeys, our everyday life experiences, and the issues of the time from the perspective of two people who just happen to be priests. Fafore, what's going on, man?
Man, nothing much, man. Same old, same old. Glad to be here with you. Glad to be here with the family. You know what I'm saying? How you been?
Man, you know my mantra, same old, man. But when things are same old, man, it's going good, man. It's going good. It could be worse.
Well, you know, Spirit say ain't no such thing as same old, same old. We either getting better or we getting worse.
It's getting better, then. It's getting better, man.
I
Everything is
say.
getting better. I learn something new every day.
I say. What you learned today?
That I don't really like working. I don't really like working. You know what I'm saying? I need a money tree, or something like that, or I need to really get paid for like reading books. Like I need to get paid for that. Like every word I read, I get paid. I get paid for that, man. I need that kind of job.
I mean, with your Odu, you are the money tree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You just
man.
gotta tap into that thing.
I'm trying to get it,
Man.
man. I'm trying to
I'm,
get it. It's coming.
right. And I'm gonna be right there. So when that cup overfloweth, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get some of the remnants gonna splash down on me. You know what I'm saying?
Pause.
Pause. Yeah, for real. I was trying to find a better way to say it, but I couldn't. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, man. So what's on your mind, man? What you got? What's on your mind right now, man, these days?
Hey, have you been paying attention to what's going on with the Little Mermaid?
I have not, man. Put me on game. I know the Little Mermaid black though.
Yeah, they got a black Little Mermaid. So it's crazy because all over social media, like since like the trailer came out, like they'll have videos of little black kids reacting to the trailer when they show that it's gonna be black. I've actually even seen like reels from like little white girls too, and they was hyped when they saw, you know what I'm saying, the Black Little Mermaid. But apparently, it's some grown ups, some adults who mad that Ariel is not a redhead white woman, which um, is interesting though with the depiction of Ariel, because they say not blue eyes, blonde hair, but red hair. White people are as far away from Africans genetically as you can get. So I don't know if that was part of the depiction in Ariel being a redhead or not, but I just find that interesting. So yeah, man, grown-ups is mad, not the kids. The kids is loving, the concept and the idea of, the Little Mermaid coming out. So here this past weekend, it was the opening for the movie, and at the box office, it did like $96 million, which is like the fifth highest gross for a movie for Memorial Day weekend. So apparently people ain't too mad, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, it's this whole big thing. It's apparently white people mad about, the mermaid being white, and then black people being mad that white people mad that the mermaid is black, and they're excited like, we got reparations. So it's interesting, energy that's going on out in the world between adults with this movie.
So just thinking about it a little bit more deeply, is how do you feel about it? Like, is that something that's necessary that you feel like? How I feel is I feel like we're being pandered to. That's how I feel
Mhm.
that we're being pandered to, and we're being given things that don't really matter. Like
Mm-hmm.
we got Ancient Mama off the syrup bottle, Uncle Ben off the rice. We got a few Confederate statues removed, but I mean, I don't really understand the purpose of it. I really don't. I would rather the Confederate statue stay
Me
and
too.
and we talk about the real history surrounding them. I'd rather Ancient Mama stay and we talk about the history surrounding her, Uncle Ben. I'd rather all of these things stay and
Mm-hmm.
we be able to talk about those things because at some point, if this continues to happen, we're gonna get to the point where none of these things exist, and we are gonna have a generation of children growing up not knowing that racism even existed in America or that slavery even existed in America, especially if us as parents, if we continue to be as lazy as we have been about teaching our children. I would, man, we got generations coming up that's not going to know anything about African American history, let alone African history.
Yeah, I know kids in Mississippi, of all states, Mississippi, who don't know anything about slavery. Like Mississippi is not teaching that. I remember going down to Ole Miss for a football game. It was when it was Cam Newton's last year,
Hmm.
and Auburn, they were like #1 at the time. And me and a couple of my partners went down there to go check it out. And I remember looking at them trees, like, man, I wonder how many black folks was hanging from these trees. Because you know down there they got them good sturdy trees. You know what I'm saying? So I was just looking at them like, this is crazy. But yeah, man, my whole thing is that it ain't my business to get into what people do with their money, right? So the people who got the money, who hiring the people who to do the voices or the hire people to do the live action characters, they put millions and millions and millions of dollars up. It ain't my business to tell them, who they should cast and all of that, right? If I don't support it or if I don't want to support it, then I just won't go see it, right? But on the flip side, though, if Black Panther 3 came out and Leonardo DiCaprio was T'Challa, it'd be riots. You hear me?
Right.
LA, Chicago, Ferguson would be up in flames. Up in flames. Walmarts all over the country would be getting looted if that ever happened. Right?
Right.
So I get it though. I get why, they may be mad. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's like the crazy part about it is what is with everything that's going on in the world, this is the thing that we decide to give our energy to.
Right.
Right? This is the thing that we decide to be up in arms about. And it's not even for you, it's for the kid. The kid's not tripping one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If Ariel was white, you was gonna take your kids to see it anyway. Because that was gonna be the hot thing, right? Uh, I love the Marvel movies. It ain't hardly no black people in there. Still gonna watch. I love Star Wars. Other than Samuel L. Jackson playing Mace Windu, and well, this was a long, long, long time ago with Billy D. Other than that, where the black folks at? I still
Right.
love the show. But yeah, man, it's just one of those things, inconsequential things that we decide to be angry about. But at least so far, the movie's a success. Like I said, fifth highest gross at $96 million at the box office over the weekend. I Depending on if the majority of that money was black people or white people, is going to determine how much money they made in concessions. Because we not buying popcorn and candy there. We bringing that with us.
Right. Right. I was just getting ready to ask that question. Like, all of these millions of dollars, possibly hundreds of millions of dollars that they're gonna make.
Mhm.
Uh, who does that money benefit? Besides the black woman that is playing Ariel in the movie, who does that money benefit?
I mean, really, it's going to benefit the studios and
Right.
Obviously, the people who put in for the money, they gonna make that money. Like I said, ideally, what's going to happen is the movie theaters are going to make their money at the concession. Which, like I said, we bringing plates, we bringing whole plates wrapped up. You know what I'm saying? We hitting the McDonald's. You know, we going to Wendy's hitting the 4 for $4, bringing that in the big purse. So you're gonna have places like TJ Maxx and Ross and Burlington, you know, because I was the type of person though, like whoever I was dating at the time, I bought a movie purse if they didn't already have, like come by the big bag. And it was just a little cheap purse that they ain't really carrying on a regular basis. And we gonna stuff that thing with all the food. That was gonna be their bag. So like Ross and all them gonna make money. Um, and you know, now I actually went to the movie theater with somebody who got like a little I forgot what movie we went to go see, but they got like the little what they call them ponies of the alcohol, like the little joints.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? So the liquor store, the corner store gonna benefit,
That's them
you know.
airplane bottles.
Yeah, them. So Snickers and them, you know, gonna benefit. And then if they sell liquor at the movie theater, then some people gonna drink. You know what I'm saying? For everybody who ain't sneaking in them little ponies, they gonna give them a little drink. But yeah, because I remember going to the movies and the line for the concessions used to be packed. I ain't seen that in a minute going to the movies. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I done lived in the suburb for a long time now, so I don't even be in black movie theaters. So I'm thinking even our white brothers and sisters have picked up on the hustle. You know what I'm saying? They
Right.
bringing in, you know, they food, they
They
snacks,
Zuzus, they
they
Zuzus and Wham Whams.
yeah, they bringing in honey buns and ham and cheese sandwiches and all that. They bringing in the whole school lunch situation too. So yeah, but it's gonna be a little bit of that money off the top that you know the concession stand people gonna make. Plus they rob you. They
Man,
hitting you with the prices like when you will go to like the amusement park or something. They hit you with them kind of prices, so they gonna make their money.
airport prices.
Yeah, it might even be worth the airport. Cause I swear, man, you go to like a Kings Island, you go to what's down here, Six Flags or Disney World. Oh, you getting cracked over the head. So yeah, people gonna eat, people gonna make their money. You know what I'm saying, regardless. But you know, people acting like Ariel being black is like reparations. And I was just thinking today though, and that's kind of along them same lines that I want my reparations check now, like while I'm still young and vibrant. Now I don't want my kids to inherit it or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
I want to be able to, you know what I'm saying, trick some of that money off myself.
right.
So
I feel you, man. I feel you. So, what does episode look like tonight, man?
oh man, we got a good one today for the people. You know, for the last 2 seasons, yeah, prior to this season. You know, we would always end the show off with, you know, life's a journey, don't forget the map. Well, today we're going to talk about that map. What's that map look like? Where you get that map? How you get that map? How can that map help you? So we about to go ahead and hop on into this episode with tonight's featured guest.
I say.
All right,
Aboro
man.
Boye, Baba.
Akbar,
Yeah, man. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and come spending some time with us. We appreciate you, Baba. So, introduce yourself to the family. For those that don't know you, tell us who you are and what you do.
my name is Christopher Willis Brown. I was born in the state of Arizona, where I grew up on the Navajo Indian Reservation. My father was a guidance counselor at the time, worked for the Indian Affairs for the U.S. government, where he was a guidance counselor. And I was born out there, stayed out there to approximately age 6, and we moved back to Texas, where my family is originally from. My Yoruba name, well, I got like 10, but people call me Sangodare. Sangodare means Shango exonerates me. Means, I guess, at one point in time, maybe I was a bad actor. I don't know. But it means Shango exonerates me. I received it in my initiation when I was initiated to the priesthood of Shango. My Ifa name is Fagbemi. It means Ifa uplifts me, Ifa supports me. I received it with my initiation to the priesthood of Ifa, or as what we would call Tefa. Um, I have many other names that there's no need to go into at this time. I am a Ifa priest, aka Babalawo. I'm also an astro-numerologist, where I study astrology, astronomy, the science of numbers. My educational background is in mathematics and in computer science. Um, my, I guess you could say my nickname is Baba Akasamo. Akasamo means one who studies the sky.
So, as it is customary on the Who Made Y'all Priest podcast, we talk about our spiritual journeys. Tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey. Like, what got you to Ifa? Did you practice any spiritual systems before you got to Ifa? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, um, I began basically by getting into, I guess you could say, Pan Africanism. Start studying Black history. I started studying different African cultures. But that opened the door for me to start studying many different systems, from Buddhism, Taoism, Jainism, Hinduism. I was a person that loved to study things like sacred geometry. I started going down the road of the occult, and then I was initiated into Freemasonry. I've been a Freemason approximately over 30 years now. And in that journey, I also came across the Rosicrucians, which is a mystical body that basically teaches esoteric wisdom and different techniques to bring about the awakening of the self. About 1990, I think it was like 1998, was my first encounter with the tradition. Um, I was told to go get a reading from this Babalawo that was living in Houston at the time. And at that point in time, I didn't know anything about the tradition. I got the reading. The reading was pretty accurate, and I didn't think about Ifa after that. That was like in 1998. And about 4 years later, after I had worked, at the time I was working in Clear Lake, where I was a software engineer, where I worked for the space shuttle program. And I went through a period of time where my life basically fell apart. And in that falling apart, I came across some people that became very, very good friends of mine. And it was during this time period that we all came across the tradition that we call Orisha tradition or Ifa tradition. And this was in 2002. And the same individual, or Babalao, who gave me the reading in 1998 was the same Babalao whose temple I used to attend. And that began my journey into the tradition. One of the friends that I came across at that time period, you guys know him very well. You guys called him Baba Femi. At that point in time, of course, he was just Brother Steve. And so we began that journey around 2002 when it comes to the tradition. And about a year or so later, we was kind of getting disgruntled about how things were being done at this other Babalao's temple. And one day, I ran across who would be my future god brother, who I had been knowing for years. His name is Ifalade. At that point in time, we called him Malafia. And he had just got back from Nigeria, where he had gone through an initiation in Nigeria, and he told me that his Aluo was going to be coming to the country later on in the year, and that he would inform me. Fast forward, July or August of 2003, I was able to meet my future teacher. In less than 5 months, about 5 months later, I was initiated um, into the tradition as a priest of Shango. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that's
So you
dope.
came in fast like we did then. Like you know.
Faster.
I would say, to be honest, I came in on an accelerated track. I won't even say a fast
Hmm.
track. I would say an
Hmm.
accelerated track. I skipped everything. Warriors, we skipped all that. How we did that was crazy, but we were individuals that were, to I would say, well learned. Um, just because we had just started, um, I guess you could say, studying Ifa or Risha around 2002, I had at that point in time, I had been studying the occult for over 10 years,
Hmm.
almost 12 years. Like I said, I had studied the Rosicrucians. I was at that point in time. I was When I met my godfather, I was already in the Rosicrucians for 6 years. I had already been a Freemason for roughly 11 years. Matter of fact, maybe 12 years. So, I was already into the occult. I was already into spirituality. And I was already a person that had been studying many different philosophical perspectives. So it was pretty easy for me to grasp the concepts, and a lot of the things that I was learning, I'd already knew. It
Hmm.
just was coming from a different culture.
Mm, mm, mm. So we got Hinduism, Buddhism, the occult, uh, Ifa. We got
But I'm gonna tell you,
Freemasonry.
I'm gonna tell you which one was above all of them. Ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. So all those things were, I've been studying for years, and I still study all of those cultures today.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it gives me insight to how things, work. I mean, it's almost like if you are studying a system and it's kind of cryptic, for, for lack of a better word. I'm able to backdoor it from another system, and then use linguistics and etymology to
Mm,
to remove the veil.
Hmm.
mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you done a lot of things, and you and our Luo apparently were rabble rousers as well. Oseun and myself, we met in the lodge. We was rabble rousers before we came to E5.
I
But
heard.
but so you mentioned astro-numerology, which is the thing that you come to speak to us to today. How did you come across astro-numerology?
Um,
And also tell us exactly what astro-numerology is.
well, as I think I said before, my educational background is, I have a degree in mathematics and a degree in computer science. So I always had a passion for numbers. I was always pretty good when it comes to numbers. Um, I would say, I think the first time that I came across that particular concept was in, I want to say, maybe 90, maybe around 94. So we're talking about 20, 28, 29 years ago, almost 30 years ago. One of the elders that I knew at the time was showing me about how his numbers had added up to 777. And it wasn't in the way he showed me. Um, I had never really gotten into that. So that interests me. That piqued my interest. And so that's what got me, contemplating that particular path. But it wasn't until the early 2000s when I actually started studying numerology. And by the time we get to 2004, I had started to be pretty good at interpreting charts. And it was at that time that Maya Luo told me that I needed to do that for people.
Mm.
And he said that it's very important, specifically for African Americans, because we need to know. And so he shared with me the connection between numerology and the Mary D. Lagoon. He showed me how to basically bring what we call numerology and how to put it together with what I was studying in the tradition. So I had my Luo's blessing at the time.
Oh,
But that's
sure.
how I started getting into it, and as you know, it's a life journey. It's
Mm-hmm.
you start to understand the basics, but then you start to uh, get more in depth. You start having people that you learn from. You start studying different books, and you start and spirit just leads you. One of the individuals that Maluo shared with me, um, he used to interact with back in New York. I can't think of his name right now, but he's a very famous numerologist. He has a book, um, and he told me at the time, "Yes, you have the book."
You talking about this book?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Lloyd
so
Strayhorn.
yes, yes. So in 2004, Maluo told me about that particular numerologist, and and told me that some of the things that he was doing, that would be some of the things that I should be doing.
Mm.
Mm.
And so, 20 nearly 20 years later, here I am. As far as astrology, um, I started studying astrology around the same time numerology, but I focused more on numerology more in my earlier years. It wasn't until probably uh, being in Egypt where I start refining my astrological craft. And when I returned back to the States, I just got deeper and deeper into it. And then when you study both of them, you bounce off the energies of the numbers um, and the astrology, and it's mind-boggling the insight that
Mm-hmm.
you can receive. Um, there are times and when um, I've been in itas, in the for people receiving ishefa, and there would be times I wouldn't even look at the odus. I
Right.
wouldn't. The odus would come down, and you would have about 10 Ifa priests in the room. This is no exaggeration. 10 Ifa priests in the room. So when the odus come down, all of them give their interpretation, right? And and I would go, since I'm a senior priest. I would, for the most part, I would go before everybody, probably but Femi at the time, and I wouldn't even look at the Odus. I would
Mm-hmm.
break down their numerology, their astrology, and then at the end of the Ita, and you look at the Odus. What if you're looking at it from heaven? What if you're looking at it from the earth? What if you're looking at the twin? No matter how you looked at it, the things that I was saying
Mm-hmm.
are literally verses in the Odus.
Ashe, Ashe. And to kind of go with what you just now said, at my ETA for priesthood initiation, you said nothing about any of my Odus. You just went straight from my natal chart. So um, I actually witnessed that, firsthand. So um, just this is for the family. Everybody, the two of you already know this. So about 5 years or so ago, um, it was 5 years ago when we got our hand to be five. And shortly after that, once I got my hand to be five, everybody knows I'm a son of Shango. Yemo Jobs, my
Bravo, Fabio.
compliment. I'll say. Yemo Jobs, my compliment. I'm a life path seven. And people used to say, like, man, you know Baba Dara? And I'm like, never met him. They're like, man, you got a lot of similarities to Baba Dara. And I'm a Virgo son. Like, man, you need to get in contact with Baba Dara. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, about the third or fourth time I heard this, I said, all right, so how do I contact this Baba Dara? And so that's when, I contacted you and we talked for the first time. And I had an Astro-Numerology reading done. And it was mind blowing. At that point, I've had several readings, E5 readings. I had my ETA, but this right here was truly mind blowing. Like I was impressed before. Don't get me wrong, but this was different. I was just like, wow, like this mind blowing. It was something that I didn't know that I needed, didn't think that I needed, but I was so glad that I went down there. So when I talk to people about Baba Dara, I always reference you as my teacher. Obviously, my Aluo was always going to be, my teacher. That's the relationship. He kind of got stuck with me. But I always say you got stuck with me because it was from that moment on. The first question I asked you when you asked me if I had any questions, I'm like, "Is there any books or anything I can read about this?" And you would say, "Yeah, you could take my classes." So from then, I started taking your classes, and I knew I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be an astro-numerologist one day. Um, I'm not quite there yet. Numerology, I'm pretty good with. Astrology, I can do the basics, but um, I'm on my
Bit
way
by
to
bit,
getting there.
bit by
Bit
bit.
by bit, exactly. Bit by bit, I'm on my way there. So for the past two seasons, the way we would end the show would be by saying, life's a journey, don't forget the map. And the map that I was referring to would be your natal chart. You know, it's easier to get to where you're trying to get to if you have some direction, some instruction, right?
Exactly.
And so with that, talk to people about that map, that chart, that natal chart, and how it can help them in their walk on Earth.
Well, it's just that it's a map. If you are going to say, for instance, if you're going to New York City, you live in Houston, Texas, and you have no idea how to get there, and you're driving a vehicle, it would behoove you to get a map or get a GPS system
Right.
that basically is mapped out for you to know where to go, how to go, where to turn, when to stop, and so your blueprint is based upon the heavens, is based upon your location on the earth, and is in relative to the position of the stars in the heavens. And so when you have that blueprint, you actually have your own personal, I guess you could say, your own personal individualized Bible, how to
Mm-hmm.
conduct yourself, how to live your life, what you should eat, what you should not eat, what you should, how you should behave. It's very important because it teaches you what energy that you are projecting. And what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is this: You may be a person that it seems like consistently you are attracting a very sensitive energy. Like what I mean by that is, say for instance, you talk to people, and all of a sudden it just seems like that they get the wrong idea, or they think you're harsh, or they think you're mean, or they think you. If you understand your blueprint and you look in your seventh house and you see planets that are known for its fiery nature, many times your intent is not to be insulting, your intent is not to be harsh, but it's the energy that you are projecting. But if you understand your natal chart, you can see it in living color what's happening. So once you understand your blueprint, you understand what you need to do as an individual to offset that or to heal from the traumas that you brought into this life. Your natal chart is nothing more but housing your destiny, your purpose, and your traumas.
I say.
Traumas that you brought in from a previous life,
Mm-hmm.
things to look up for in this life. So if you have a map telling you there's a pothole over there off of 2234 Belfort, then you know once you're driving down to 2234 Belfort, you know how to dodge the pothole.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that the
Right.
pothole is not there. It just teaches you how to try to avoid that pothole. And
Right.
that's what a natal chart does for you. It will zero in on strengths that you may not even know you have. It can
Mm-hmm.
show you weaknesses that, and it gives you the antidote for you to develop that weakness and turn it into a non-weakness.
Mm.
So it's just like in Ifa we have an Odu, and that Odu comes with taboos. That Odu tells you what type of experiences that you may encounter in the future. Your astro-numerology does the same thing. In fact, in fact, it's even easier, in my opinion, to navigate because number one, it's not an oral tradition. Astrology at this point is so many books on astrology. There's so much information on astrology that if you want to learn astrology, you can learn astrology.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we're talking about the oral traditions of Ifa and Orisha, it's just now beginning for us to have access to.
Mm.
Right. Right. And I got an example of that, and I'm sure Oseun has, at least one that he could share too. I remember when I got my reading, and you were doing an amazing job up until this point. You looked at my chart and you said to me, because we're on kind of a Zoom, I think where I can see your face. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. It's been a while. But anyway, so we're talking, and I'm wild at this point. And then you get to this point where you said, um, you're extremely sensitive. And I said, no, I'm not. And you said, you never heard that you were sensitive? I said, not never. You said, So you paused. You said, yeah, it's all over your chart, hold on, let me look. Yeah, even with the numerology, it's all over that you being sensitive. I'm like, not a sensitive bone in my body. Not even a little bit. Like I was like firm on that. So you get off of that and you go to other things and then you circle back to it about my sensitivity. And I'm like, and I laugh like, no, I'm not sensitive at all. Like, not even a little bit. So not too long after that, I'm having a conversation with somebody. And I wish I knew who I was talking to and what the conversation topic was so I can show you how like insignificant it was. And I'm talking to them and they say something and I'm like I felt it like on the inside, like, not butterfly, but you know how you get the feeling. I'm like, and in that moment, they're still talking and I like leave the conversation and I'm like, damn. And I start replaying all these past instances throughout my life. The person's still talking. I don't know what the hell they're saying. I'm somewhere else. And I say, damn, I am sensitive. And I start laughing immediately. Like I was telling him, like he didn't know. Everything else was spot on. I'm like, you really messed that part up. And I'm like, damn, I'm really sensitive. So when you have these things, you really got to go into it with an open mind, because there are things that we don't recognize about ourselves. And it's there. And I'm telling you, this shit don't lie. Like it is what it is, right? We just haven't accepted some of these things. Like your chart may talk to you about your creative abilities. You're like, man, I ain't creative at all. I can't draw, write, paint, this, that, and the other. You just haven't tapped into it yet. So after having that moment and accepting the fact that I'm sensitive, things have gone a whole lot smoother, like a lot smoother. So, Baba, thank you for that.
You're welcome. And just because someone is sensitive, that's not a negative thing, because that same sensitivity, you're able to turn that into a heightened intuition.
Right. Right. But growing up, where I grew up, how I grew up, who I grew up around, when you said sensitive, I didn't hear sensitive. I heard something else that was really derogatory. Not saying that you was trying to be derogatory, but I was like, man, hell no. Not me.
Right. Right. I think one of the most compelling things that you told me in my Astro-Numerology reading was how you was able to go back to the time that I had spent in prison. That was deep for me. That was deep for me. And talking about how I needed to go back into the prisons and go back to those people that had traveled the same road that I traveled and try to help them to heal as I myself was trying to heal. So that was compelling to me. And I went into it as skeptical as anybody could be. I was used to reading the horoscopes in the newspaper and things like that. I'm like, oh yeah, this something else right here. And I never knew.
You thought you was walking into some bullshit. That's what
Right. Yeah, I did. But yeah, man, you wowed me. Fafore spoke highly of you. Like, man, you got to get your Astro-Numerology chart, man. You got to get your chart. Yeah, and I finally got that done. My wife got hers done, and we were blown away. We were blown away. That was much more information in the chart than in our Odus. That was some that helped us to supplement the information that we had in our Odu. So, yeah. I appreciate that, Baba. Yeah,
I'm gonna go a step further with that. My son was born at 3:31. I had his natal chart. I had his natal chart by 9 o'clock that evening. He was born on a Saturday. By that Monday, we were having the reading. So that's how impactful it was for me, that I was like, I'm finding out my son's information immediately. Mm-hmm. So when I texted, he was like, dang, you just got here today? I said, yeah, but I need that info.
Right. Right. I did the same thing. I talked to Baba Dare the day Samaya got here. And he immediately told me some things over the phone, like, yeah, man, she's gonna be sensitive and all of these things, man, all of these things. So immediately we know about our children as soon as they get here, and we're seeing these things play out in their lives right now.
Yeah, she was already special just how she got here.
Right. Yeah. Special, yeah. She's still special. She's special now. She
right. Yeah, man. It was so here's the negative side of me taking your classes. And it was great though. It was during a different era of his classes. So this was like a 101 with me and him, and we would be in class for hours, right? He does it differently now. But yeah, it was just me and him for hours. Like that was good. And I would ask every question I could think of. I was trying to stretch that time out as far as I could. But here's the dark side of me taking those classes with you. I can no longer get on social media and laugh at or enjoy those reels where it was like, it'll make a statement, don't say nothing smart to me, or we gonna fight? And then it'll be like Scorpio, Aries, Pisces. After class, I'm like, yo, y'all just listed 6 zodiac signs. Very different. Y'all didn't do all fire signs. Y'all didn't do all mutable signs. Y'all just got these random signs, and it's like 6, 7, 8 of them. So it's like half to the majority of the population you're talking about anyway. And then you have all of these people like, yep, Gemini, that's me. Yep, me too. Leo, And I'm like, come on. Y'all can't be serious. So you done messed my enjoyment up with all of those type of reels. I can no longer watch them. I can no longer enjoy them. They irritate me. So thank you for stealing that from me.
You most definitely are welcome.
But I got a question for you because this bugs me too. And I want you to talk to the people about this. I'm glad people are at least in a space where we're talking about our sun signs, right? Because 10 years ago, you didn't see Cancer season, Gemini. You didn't even see that really like that 10 years ago. So I'm glad people are getting into that. But now, because all you know is your sun sign, because all you need is your month and day of birth. It's super easy to find that out.
Mm-hmm.
So now everything that you do is because you're a Gemini. Everything that you do is because you're a Scorpio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of kill this myth of the sun sign, can you talk to the people about what a sun sign is and even what it's not?
The sun sign is basically, um, it has, I would say, your basically your personality, the strength of it. It's like your ego, in a sense. Sometimes they say it's your soul, but it's more like your ego. What drives you? If you're a Virgo, you're going to have a lot of what we call Virgo tendencies, the goods and the bads. This is what's driving you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what's going to elevate you. The first things that I teach people, you need to know what your moon is and what your ascendant is. I call that the holy trinity of astrology.
Mm-hmm.
That'll show you your passions, which is dealing with where the moon is, and then with the ascendant, it gives you an insight of how how you present yourself to people. It's like your mask. Um, but that's not the one that I really tell people to look at. It's the nodes, the
Mm-hmm.
north and south nodes. The nodes represent your past and your future. If we were making a comparison, I would say the nodes are like Kundalini energy. That's where your power is going to come in. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that is this: wherever your south node is, it's your past. It was your strength in a previous life, and it's the things that you tend to gravitate toward initially in this life. But it also could be what could drain you, what can bring you down. You want to look more toward your north node, which is where your destiny lies. Where it's where your mission and your purpose. Wherever the north node is, whatever sign and house your north node is in, that is the direction that your life should take. If you're an
Mm-hmm.
individual, if you're an individual, say you have a south node in the seventh house, that means your north node is in the first house.
Mm-hmm.
But if your seventh house contains your south node, it means that you would naturally be involved in partnerships. You would and this and you have service to people, especially if you're a south node Virgo in the seventh house. And it would be something that you would do naturally. Something that you would love doing, but that's not what you should be doing for the most part in this life.
Right.
You have a strength of partnerships, collaborations, but your purpose and destiny in this life is to embrace your individuality. Not that you can't serve others, but it's in your destiny to embrace your individuality, your individual self, and become a leader. Meaning, if you would have to learn how to set boundaries between your relationships and your individual pursuits.
Ashe, Ashe. And with that, that is why we have the Who Made Y'all Priest podcast. Both Oseun and myself, in honor of our North nodes, since we both got our natal chart years and years and years ago, our North node is on in the 11th house.
Community.
Right. So this is a way for us to serve our destiny and purpose and to give something to the people by trying to present topics that will help the community move forward. So, in part, that's how we got here, right? And we had that conversation when we were talking about the podcast. I was like, "Hey, both of our North nodes in the 11th house. It makes sense. I'm a
Which
life
means
path,
which means your south node is in the 5th house,
right?
which corresponds to the Leo energy, the one who's on stage, the one who shines. So you're taking that past life and even this life, because y'all like to shine, because that's that Leo 5th house
Mm-hmm.
energy, but
Mm-hmm.
you're channeling that not to be centered around yourself, but taking that energy and teaching the community, the public.
Absolutely.
Change. The 11th house is about change. It's about community. It's about the public. It's about making change with grassroots activism. But you're
Right.
utilizing that creativity, that artistic expression for the community.
Absolutely. And my North node is in Virgo, that servant energy, along with my sun sign being a Virgo.
Yes.
I'm a life path 7. Oseun is a life path 11. Very, very spiritual numbers. So that's how we are utilizing that energy to work, for our best interest.
Also, it also says that's why you talk more than he does.
I do, because
Uh-huh.
I'm a natural talker. So, that just kind of comes with the territory.
Come on,
So Baba,
Fafore.
let's talk about the another thing that we see a lot in social media, so to speak, is retrograde. Specifically Mercury retrograde, even though there's 10 planets, you don't hear about any retrogrades normally except Mercury. And every time your phone don't work, every time your call get dropped, computer issues, you have a miscommunication with somebody, we're always blaming it on Mercury retrograde. So about 4 or 5 years ago, while at work, after having a conversation with somebody, I actually went outside and called you on the phone. And it was during Mercury retrograde. I said, "Hey, Bob, I got a question about this Mercury retrograde. You keep hearing people talk about it so much. Everybody's infatuated with Mercury retrograde." And I was surprised by your answer because it seemed to go against the grain of what everybody was saying. So, can you tell the family about retrogrades in general and specifically Mercury retrograde?
I'm curious to. I don't remember what I told you.
Well, if you tell the people, I'll tell you if it was the same answer.
Okay. Well, first of all, retrograde. They're trying to make it seem like a planet is going backwards. There's no such thing as a planet orbiting backwards. It's different.
Right.
It's it just seems to maybe going backwards based upon the rotation, the orbits of the planets, and um, and I guess you could also say the take into account the speed of the orbit. But there's no such thing as a planet moving backwards. Um, and there are all these planets they retrograde. Mercury retrogrades, Venus retrogrades, and when you're really heavily into astrology, you pay attention to those planets also. But nobody really talks about those.
Right.
Um, I used to be someone that with the retrogrades, Mercury retrogrades, I say, I don't, I'm not going to fall victim to that. I can override that because I was born on a retrograde. My Mercury, when I was born, Mercury was retrograde. And so a lot of the issues that people have with Mercury retrograde, I usually kind of bypass it. But there have been times that I've gotten frustrated as hell during Mercury retrograde because it was affecting me also. Um, on a scientific level, I cannot explain it. I'm sure there is an explanation, but I cannot explain it. All I know is just it plays out. People's stuff just be tearing up, phones be acting up. But I can't really explain it why. But based upon what Mercury represents, of course it would happen like that because Mercury is the planet of communication. Is in fact before they discovered Uranus or Uranus, Mercury was the one that they looked to as far as like changes and stuff. Because you got Uranus, which is known as the planet of change, but prior to that, we looked at Mercury for commerce because Mercury in mythology represented commerce, communication, crossroads, messenger of the gods. So anything that dealt with communication, anything that dealt with technology was associated with Mercury. And
Mm.
so anytime the planet Mercury seems like it's in going backwards, i.e. retrograde, it's just some kind of way you really need to watch how you communicate and watch your words because it can really screw you up. But I don't remember what I told you. I really don't.
So you said everything.
You're gonna have to edit this
The,
piece out
the
because I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Go ahead.
the one thing that you did add is you talked about it's more important to understand if Mercury was in retrograde when you were born.
Yes.
And because it would have more of an effect on those who had Mercury in retrograde at the time of their birth than other people. However, it is something to be aware of, and you would be cognizant of that in communication, and even from the way you're thinking when you're in a retrograde. But it's not necessarily something to like
Yeah,
blow
I
out of
remember that
proportion.
conversation now. I kind of remember that
Hmm.
conversation now because everybody is talking about Mercury retrograde based upon how it's affecting them. But if
Right.
you understand your planets that are in retrograde in your blueprint, then you understand that you really got some special gifts and special talents wherever that retrograde planet resides in your chart.
Hmm.
Uh, if I'm not mistaken, Muhammad Ali had like 5 planets that were retrograde.
Right. My
So,
son has 5 planets
so
retrograde.
that's an indication. Um, this person has a lot of gifts, and he would not be a traditional. He would probably go against the grain in many ways and carve his own path to to brilliance.
I
Hmm.
say.
I say.
Oseun.
So now we've been talking about astrology more than numerology. So we want to step into numerology a little bit now. Uh, Tell us about numerology. How does that work? What does that mean? What does that take into consideration when you're talking to someone about their
Nu-
numerology and numbers?
Numerology, we have the belief that the numbers are based upon vibration. Each one of the numbers has a particular vibration that it or a particular frequency that it's vibrating on.
Mhm.
And so when we take the numbers, I mean the letters in your name, but if we look at how many letters are in your birth name, if we take the individual numerical values of the letters in your birth name, it has a meaning behind it because
Mm,
it's giving us an indication of what frequency that you're vibrating on. If you're a person that vibrates on the one, then we know that you're a leader. We know that you initiate. So when we understand you as a number, what if it's your life path, your expression, your soul urge, your birthday, we understand your signature, which is gives us in many ways it's a shortcut to understanding who and what you are, even faster than astrology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. Just after taking your classes, astrology is way sexier. You know, especially when you start getting the sextiles and trines and all that. I'm like, it's sexy. But numerology packs a serious punch, and it's easier to get to that information.
Yeah, it's easier, but it's very powerful. And I'm gonna tell you why
Mm-hmm.
I say that. When you're dealing with numerology, you have what they call karmic debt numbers. Those numbers are 19, 16, 14, and 13. Automatically, when you see these numbers, depending on what category they're in, or depending on what area in your life they're in, it gives us an indication of what you truly have to work on. What you
Mm-hmm.
brought in from the past that you did not complete as far as the lesson, and you have to complete that lesson in this life. 16-7, you're a person that probably had family issues, relationship issues, and you have these issues because in the previous incarnation you caused other people to suffer, mainly family people, or grieve. And so in this life, you have to go through certain experiences with family members to pay that debt. I know people that have 16-7s, and they're struggling with their relationships with their husbands. They struggle with relationships with their family members. But it does not necessarily mean you will have to struggle. It just means that you have to go about it from a different perspective. But many people don't understand that. If you're 19-1, you're a person that's a leader, but at the same time, you was a leader in the previous life. But you would tend to attract people that may try to question your authority. You may be put in a position of authority, but you end up misusing it or abusing it. And so your life lesson is learning how to have more compassion, more humility, because the 19-1 is made up of a 1, which is a leader, and a
Mm-hmm.
9, which is a humanitarian, one who has compassion. So you have an internal war inside that number. For you to burn out the karma, you have to have more compassion. You were talking about, we were talking about astrology, and you were saying, I was looking at your chart, and I was able to pinpoint the time periods and stuff that you were incarcerated. I was using numerology, and one of the main numbers I use is 19-1. It's a number that's a struggle. It's a struggle for independence. And I've seen many charts where that number is prevalent, and most times than not, these people feel like they were locked down, and couldn't move, couldn't go where they wanted to go. And one of your God sisters, who's no longer with us now, it was one of the first ones I was able to look at her chart and identify her situation, and it was a 4 or 5 year run of 19-1s. Back to back to back to back to back to back to back.
You know, my son Isaiah, his life path number is 19-1. So yeah, we need to. We I'm trying to remember. Did we get a full chart on him? I don't think so. I think we need to get
No, I
a.
don't think so. But that 19-1 is his life path.
Yes, his life path number.
I mean, he's going to always be someone that's going to be a leader. He's going to be. He's never going to be a follower. If in fact, if I'm not mistaken, um, the former president of the United States had an expression 19-1, Barack Obama, if I'm not mistaken. So his struggle would be not necessarily a struggle, but um, people from the outside maybe questioning his authority or questioning why he does something. But as long as he uh, continues down the road of the arts, which automatically kind of helps him with compassion and that type of gratitude, type of energy, he'll be fine.
You know, for these past 3 seasons, we've talked mostly about Ifa, almost exclusively about Ifa. So uh, the people out there have heard us talk about Ifa, priest of Ifa, the Odu, and things like that. As priest of E5, we usually use the Odu to tell people about experiences that they will possibly have, that they're having, that they may have had in the past. And now we're getting into Astro-Numerology and talking about things that may have happened in the past, things that are happening now, things that may happen in the future. Does Astro-Numerology give us the same thing or the same information that the Odu does, or does it give us more information, or does it give us more information, a greater insight into the blueprint that we chose while still in the spirit realm?
Both of them are profound. I would say, from our perspective, you may receive more information from an astro-numerology reading. Not saying that the Odu doesn't have that information. It's based upon the Babalawo that's doing the interpretation of the Odu, because each Odu has 800, at least 800 verses. There's no Babalawo who knows all those verses for that Odu. So it's based upon the competency of the person that's interpreting the Odu.
Mm-hmm.
When you have your itas, and you have 4 and 5 and 6 people that are doing the interpretation, you get a ton of information. But for the most part, it's going to be based upon the knowledge base of the individuals that are interpreting the Odu. With somebody who's an astro-numerologist and they're very good at what they do, they're going to touch on things that are in the Odus, but they're going to touch on things that are in the Odu, but might not be in the verse that the Babalawos that are at the table interpreting your Odu and your Ita, they may not know that at the time. There are many. It's been on many occasions that I know things about myself, not just from experience, but from studying my astrology, studying my numerology, that it would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years after I received my Ita that I've learned something about a verse in my Odu that matches what I already knew about myself in the astrology and the numerology. So the stuff is in the Odu, no doubt about it. It's just that because we are oral tradition, everybody does not. It's not like we have all of the verses compiled in one book.
Right.
You know, some of us probably have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different Odu books, right? 9. I mean, you got a ton of Odu books. We may have 30, 40, 50 verses of an Odu. But those Odus are parables. A lot of them are parables. A lot of them have stories that come with it to give you insight of what this verse means. And then you have to extract the meaning and interpret it and bring it all together in a narrative.
Right.
If you're an astro-numerologist, it helps to know stories behind the mythology with the planets and the zodiac, but because it has been written down and has been given and taught in an open forum for so long, you have access to that information. So it's going to always seem like if somebody comes to me and I give them an astro-numerology reading, for the most part, I'm going to always seem like I'm going to give you more information than I would if it was just your Odu. Now, the gap is getting closer, meaning why is the gap getting closer? Because I'm learning more and more verses of those Odus. So as I continue my journey in Ifa, I learn more and more and more Ifa verses. So that gap will close. But right now, if you was to take my astro-numerology class, you would learn more about yourself initially than you would by getting your Odu and your Ita. That's just real talk.
And I can speak to that because we have a monthly client, and there was repetitive thing. There was a theme that was coming up every month, and I'm like, I want to know where this is coming from. So I pulled up the natal chart, and sure enough, I saw a stellium in the 4th house. And I was like, oh, this goes back not only to the home, specifically to a relationship with their mother.
Yeah.
And so when we did the reading and mentioned all this, it was like, that's exactly the relationship that I have with my mother. And I was like, there it is. That is why these things are happening. And this is why this theme keeps coming up. Now, after we had that conversation and they went back and, had some conversations, that and the other, we don't see that theme come up. It's
Exactly. 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 So
Now,
it's important to have that knowledge.
mhm.
Mhm.
Now I'm sure you know that that my brother and myself, that we are born skeptics. I'm a skeptic by nature. I wanna question everything. I think everything is game. Uh,
Everything is game.
right. So what do you say to those who are skeptical of any type of reading, but specifically since we're talking about astro-numerology, what do you say to those who are skeptical about astrology and numerology?
Very
What do you
simple.
say to those people?
I don't say anything. They purchase if many times I would go in a room. This is what I used to do back in the day, like back in like 2000, 2006, 2007, 2008. We used to be on the radio, and people would call in and they would tell me their birthday. So then when they would tell me their birthday, then I would tell them what's going on around them right now. I would tell them what type of individual, who they are, what their strengths, their weaknesses, just based upon their birthday. So
Mhm.
once you start illustrating, most of the problems most of the skepticism falls away.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're skeptic, that's fine with me. If you come to me and you get a reading, I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna get you because you can't deny it. Now that doesn't mean that I may say something or see something and it may not totally vibe with you. That doesn't mean that. It just means that that may be something that you have worked on. That may be something that
Mhm.
I may misinterpret. But for the most part, how do you know a reading is on point? When I tell you things that you agree with, and I shouldn't know that. How do I
Asha.
know? How do I know that you have relationship issues with your siblings? How do I know that? How do I know that growing up you dealt with addiction? How do I know that in your bloodline you got drug addicts, dope dealers, and pimps?
12th
How do I
house.
know that? When I look at certain houses, I can pinpoint that. How do I know
Mhm.
that you may have issues with? How do I know that you are a person that probably sold drugs when you were younger? And if you didn't sell illegal drugs, that you're probably a person that may be into pharmaceuticals. You may work for a pharmaceutical company. You may you may be somebody who is growing weed, but you're dealing with things that alter the mind and alter consciousness. So when I see a chart and I understand certain houses and certain zodiac signs, then I understand what's going on around you. So when you're a skeptic, to show them what I'm saying is most definitely on point, all I gotta do is illustrate.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Mhm.
don't if I can't illustrate it, you shouldn't believe it.
Right, right.
Right. Right.
I know that's what made me stop being a skeptic. You being able to tell me the things that you were able to tell me, the things that you were able to tell my wife, the things that you were able to tell me about my daughter when she was born, just right there on a dime, me telling you, hey, she was born today, she was born at this time, and the things that you were able to tell me, so that wiped away my skepticism.
Right.
I
And even
remember.
what he was saying though about the date of birth, I mean
Mhm.
that's life path number, that's personal year, personal month. Those are pinnacles, life path periods, challenge
Challenges.
numbers. You can get all kind of stuff with just that thing right there.
Mhm.
So since we talking about numbers, we own live here. Life path. All you need to know is the month you're born, the day you're born, and the year you're born. You take the number the month you're born, and reduce it to a single digit, which of course would be November is 11. So that would be the only one that you don't reduce that because it's a master number. So if you're born in January, that's a 1. If you're born in August, that's an 8, and so on and so on. So you take you take the month plus the day you're born. You're born on the 29th. 2 plus 9 is 11. So you don't go past 11. But any other number you're going to reduce to a single digit. You take the year you're born, you reduce to a single digit unless it's 11 or a 22. And you sum those three numbers together, reduce it to a single digit unless it's a master number, which are 11s and 22s. That is your life path. So if you knew that, just that can help your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they got to be careful about how they are reducing these numbers they go across, because I've had people miscalculate my number as a 16-7, and I'm not a 16-7. I'm a 2-5-7.
Exactly.
You know, so it's just. But other than that, yeah, that right there. Would you say that would? Because I know you're in the comparative studies. Would you say the life path number is the equivalent to your Odu?
It can give some light to it, and the reason I say that, I won't say yes, but I can say it gives some light to it. Like your life path gives you an indication of your strengths, your weaknesses, and things like that. But but your numerology is so much. It's so much more than your life path. Just like you
Mm-hmm.
can't compare your life path number, that one number, to your Odu. Just like you can't, or just like your sun sign, you can't say
Right.
your whole astrology is based upon your sun sign. Just like I can't say my whole numerology is based upon my life path. So I know most definitely can't say my life path is equivalent to my Odu,
Mm,
because it's
Gotcha.
much Odu is much more encompassing.
mm.
Mm.
You know, I remember when you came to the compound and you gave your basic class on astrology and numerology, and I said specifically to you that this sounds like Greek to me because this isn't something that I thought that I should be studying.
Oh, I remember. I remember word for word.
So for people who were like me at the time and still like me, what type of classes do you offer for those people to be able to learn this language of numerology and astrology? And do they need to have any type of background in numerology and astrology?
Mm.
How does that work?
The only thing you need is to go to my website and pay the money for the course. But I would I would tell them, just practice on your own name. If you're looking to learn numerology and you want to learn on your own without any guidance, go online. Learn the basics. Now, I will say if you go online, there are a lot of pitfalls, because
Mm-hmm.
you got people who just put stuff together. You got people who just add the numbers, and they're not taking in consideration the nuances. They're not taking in consideration the subtleties, like the karmic debt numbers. How do you? Because if you don't take an account of the cycles that your birthday creates, then you're going to lose out on what is your true karma. You're not going to have any karmic debt numbers. You're not going to know, what your real challenges are. And so it's almost like looking at an Odu and you looking at it like it's just straight array. There's a
Mm,
dark side to everything. And
Right.
so if you just go online and you learning the basics, they're not really giving you insight of how to um, deal with the other side of things. And then also, they're not really helping you and guiding you of how to bring the narrative together. And then
Mm.
and then in astrology, there's so many different housing systems. Which one are you gonna pick? And why would you pick this one over the other one? So in anything, when you're barking down, when you're taking a journey of something of this magnitude, I would always say you need somebody to help guide you through it, even if it's just a mentor. Maybe it's not quote unquote your teacher, but it could be your mentor, somebody who helps guide you to make sure you're staying on the correct path and help you um, avoid certain pitfalls that may lie ahead because just of repeat
Mm-hmm.
ignorance.
Yeah. I'm gonna give a plug to the class, um, because you know I have a I have a master's degree in business. I'm a big fan of formal knowledge, right? And you take tests. Um, so I had to take a test at some point in the class, and I remember logging on, and you were like, "Yeah, you got a test today. It's been averaging about 3 hours." And in my true Shango arrogant fashion, I said, "It ain't gonna take me 3 hours." 3 hours later, I was getting done. And it probably, even going through, like I said, I have a master's degree. It was easily the hardest test that I ever had to take. Um, but in taking that, I got to learn this narrative that he speaks of, because you would get a somebody's numerological chart, and he would give you pieces of information and then ask you who this person is, and you had to create this narrative. Well, you had to know how to take information to then get the information that wasn't given,
Mm.
right? And that's how, and once you fill in all those gaps, then you had to start weaving this narrative together. And once I was done and he started weaving the story together, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I know that as with all the things that I'm going to do as a part of my journey inside of this space of being a priest, right? Because we're defining, redefining, however you want to call it, what this priest walks look like. And everybody came here to do something different inside of that, right? We're all not the same type of priest, right? And I knew then this astro-numerology thing was going to be a part of my walk. But yes, creating that narrative is important, right? Being able to weave that story together is important. And I think even more difficult than interpreting the odus is the synchronization between the planet, the sign, and the house. To me, that is, and Bobby, you can tell me what you think. To me, that is more difficult, and you have to be put some more effort and some more learning and some more training in how to synchronize those three things. You know, I have Taurus in Pluto in the ninth house. What the hell does that mean, though? To take all those three things and weave it together, that is something that does take skill. So when people are, astrologers or numerologists or astro-numerologists, like, that takes some skill and some studying to be able to weave those things. That's not an easy thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean it's like taking an alphabet and creating words, and then you create sentences, and then you create sentences and create paragraphs. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to begin that particular journey when you understand that the celestial bodies has a corresponding energy to the zodiac signs, and the zodiac signs have a corresponding energy to the houses. An example of that would be um, the moon, which uh, is the ruling celestial body of Cancer. Cancer corresponds to the fourth house. So,
Mm-hmm.
what if it's the moon? What if it's Cancer? What if it's the fourth house? We all know the foundation of all three of those deals with nurturing, deals with
Mm-hmm.
motherhood, deals with healing, deals with sensitivity. And so it deals with it's a very watery energy. But when you understand that each house has corresponds to a different category in your life, then if I'm in the seventh house, I know this is dealing with one-to-one relationships. Okay, that I know for sure. So that's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if you're dealing with, say, for instance, Virgo's about service, Virgo's about details. Then I understand you're dealing with somebody that's very detail oriented and very analytical. But this is also in his partnerships, also in his relationships. Then, if you're dealing and you put Mars in the mix, Mars deals with very fiery, deals with somebody who can get angry very quickly. Then you're talking about somebody that attracts people in their one-on-one relationships that can bring a lot of tension sometimes in their relationships. They could say something and pop off real quick, and they be ready to fight him and say this person is rude. He's arrogant. He's an asshole. Why? Because the energy in the house of one-on-one relationships can be very volatile if that individual is not conscious to bring
Right.
coolness into his one-on-one relationships, no matter what.
Right. And to add insult to injury, Mars corresponds with the first house. So the fact that it's in the seventh is really out of whack. That energy is going to be real heavy because those are two contradicting energies. So that's conflict waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This was another beautiful episode. I learned more, some more today. You know, I think Fafore is more into the Astro-Numerology. I think he took more to it than I did. I start to get kind of discouraged when I can't grasp what I feel like I should be grasping at the time. But I am going to eventually have to take a class. I do want to learn about I definitely want to learn about the numbers. The numbers seem real important to me. I want to learn about the numbers. Once you start getting into the astrology and like you say, you having to put together the houses and the signs and the planets. I'm like, yeah, this is Greek. This is Greek
But
to
but
me.
but
This is
but
difficult.
you say that, but the Odu is based upon that same concept.
I don't know
When you
why
get
it's easier for me with the Odu.
when you get deeper into the Odu, each one of those, when you look at the 16 Olodu, each one of those Odus is associated with an element: fire, water, air, and earth. Just like in
Right.
astrology, fire, water, air, and earth. The four cardinal signs in the Olodu is Ejiogbe, Oiku Meji, Iwori Meji, Idi Meji. This is like the cardinal points or the cardinal signs in astrology. It's it ebbs and flows. You just have to, once you get it going, you'll see the similarities of them because it's just energy.
Right.
Like, but yeah, the numbers definitely with you, Oseun. But astrology was in my natal chart. You know what I'm saying? Like writing books, like you writing a book and you doing your thing, like that really not in my wheelhouse. That's your energy. But astrology happens to be something that was set out in the stars. I just gotta, sit my ass down. So, Baba, before we get out of here though, let everybody know how they can get in contact with you.
You can go to my website. It's www.ganphilosophy.com. GANPHILOSOPHY.com. Hopefully, I spell philosophy correct. You can reach out. You can call me. My phone number is 903-241-6295. And also, if you want to get some field knowledge, you can come with me to Egypt in the month of December of this year, December 15th through the 27th. I will be taking another group to Egypt, and some of the temples that we will be going to, you will see the zodiac and astrology on the walls, on the ceilings in Egypt.
All right. And family, for those of you who have any questions or want to know about Egypt, this is who I went to Egypt with. Myself and my brother D. We did a podcast episode. It's available on the channel where we went to Egypt. This is who we were with. It was an amazing trip. Um, but again, we detailed the whole trip, so check out that podcast episode. Baba, my teacher, Oseun's teacher, we greatly appreciate you for
Definitely.
blessing the family with just a little bit of what we get to hear and see from you on a regular basis.
You're welcome, my brother. Thank you for having me.
All right, family. I hope y'all learned a lot. You know what I'm saying? This is gonna be another one that you're gonna have to take notes, go back, watch 3, 4, 10 times. And I think it just makes sense for me to go back, to how we used to end the show for this episode. So, before I do that, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share the episode. And if you are not subscribed, please subscribe.
Subscribe.
We appreciate you as always. And always remember, life's a journey. Don't forget the map. Peace.
Peace.